Hi everybody, welcome back to Bobby's Bucks, and today I wanted to talk about gun season in Lower Michigan. Which rifle do we choose now that they've legalized rifles, 35 caliber or bigger, or the straight walled cartridge? Also accessing your stand. Now after all these hunters have gone into the woods in this intrusion, some of the deer hunting's been pushed farther back. We're going to talk about that. And then lastly, these cold temperatures are coming, and these oxygen activated heaters. What do you do when you're wearing neoprene knee-high boots and there's no oxygen in there? I'll tell you how we keep our feet warm. Here we go. When you're hunting public land or even private land, you know, sometimes they have, if it's farmland or crops, or even just somewhere where they need to get their trucks in, there's going to be a two-track, or there's going to be an area where you could ride a bike in. You can turn a 20-minute hike into a 3 or 4 minute ride. I've had my trusty Trek bike here for about 5 years, but before that I had 2 or 3 more mountain bikes before that. I've always been riding my bike in, hunting public land for 20 years. Some of these parcels are bigger than others. Not all the parcels are created equal. So some are a mile, some are less than that, some are about 2 miles. So when you can find those, you really want to know how deep and what that parcel is from your aerial photographs, because you could be going, you know, every podcast you listen to, every video that you watch, they say go farther in. Well, pretty soon if you're going too far in, you're on your way out. So you really got to know how big that parcel is, so you know you're in the right spot, or you know you're in the farthest point from where somebody would have to hike in. And there's, you know, you're going to have your heart broken from time to time, but that's okay. You just got to, you know, play the chances and hopefully you get lucky. But a lot of times I get in there and I think I'm all alone, and then all of a sudden 2 guys come by. And but that's just the way it goes. You got to pick the right spot too. So just do your research on where you're hunting, where you're at, and if you can, take a bike in there. So I'll put links down in the description for all these racks and the stuff that I've modified onto my bike, because you don't want to pack that stuff over your back. So there's a very important reason why I have the racks and all this gear on the bike. It's because you can't, I mean, if you're a young guy, maybe you can get away with it, but you know, when you're getting older, you can't really push your body as hard as you used to, because you can get injuries. If you're riding too much weight on your back on a bike, you can injure the pelvic floor. Between your hips, all around there's all these muscles, and if you put too much weight on your back, it's pushing down on that seat, and that muscle you can injure that, and it can go into a muscle spasm, which doesn't go away for sometimes months, even years, and it takes a serious rehab program to actually come back from that. So don't mess around with that. So the front rack, the back rack, all these racks are pretty inexpensive. This rack will hold your rifle, your bow, and so basically you're riding out there, but you need, you know, a good bike with good tires. You need a lot of, you know, make sure they're pressured up, and those fat tires, I really recommend that. That's probably the next bike. And then one day I'll probably get that electric bike. And if you're interested, we have all that in our storefront if you want to check those out. And you can turn these 20-minute, 25-minute hikes into 3-4 minutes on a bike. And I really recommend it. Really helps out with your state land. And you know, not everywhere, you can't ride these things really through the woods in the dark, but sometimes when you're talking about 2 tracks in the area, you can take advantage of that 2-track and ride back. So I just want to talk about accessing your stand and how I go about it. And you know, it always surprises me to talk to hunters that have been hunting 20-30 plus years, and they only take wind into account when they're on their tree stand. They don't think about when they're walking in to their stand and the wind is blowing in the direction that they're walking, and they're just clearing the field. You know, they don't know that, or they just don't take that into account. They're just hoping, they're just rolling the dice, hoping that there's not deer bedded down in the area that can smell you, and they do. You know, they're going to get up, turn around in the other direction, and you will never get to lay eyes on them. You know, they're going to know you're there well before you even think or get a shot at seeing them. So, you know, try to have the wind in your face the whole way you access your stand. Try not to cross deer trails. You know, you want to use that T access. Come up to where you think the high majority of deer are traveling back and forth, and perpendicularly access that line of travel. You know, get into your stand that way. There's certain situations where you can access your stand with wind blowing in the wrong direction, but you want to make sure that you are exercising scent control to the fullest. You are, you know, getting in there in the dark. Something about accessing your stand in the dark, where you could have deer right next to you, and they just don't seem to react the same way as if it's daytime. So if you can get in there and you're up on and your wind's blowing over a cliff, or your wind's blowing over a lake or a pond, and you know everything that's going to be upwind now you just can't get to, then that's a different situation, and that's awesome. That means you're taking your access or the wind into account the way you should. But it just, yeah, that's really important. So that's step one, just accessing your stand correctly. Make sure you're walking into the woods with the wind in your face. You're approaching your stand with the wind in your face. That way, everything that's out there can't smell you, can't detect you. So this is the Ruger Bushmaster, and it's got like a really cool color to it, and it's got a very short barrel. It's very easy to carry through the woods. It's light. I upgraded the scope to a copperhead vortex scope, and it's got really nice notches for 100, 150, 200. You could shoot this up to 300-yard capability. It's got a little clip that holds 3 bullets, and it's really smooth. So, oh, I just caught the lens cap, but yeah, it's pretty. I don't know if you can see the scope there. This is absolutely the best rifle I've ever shot for deer hunting. I've only owned it for 3 years, but I've killed 4 deer with it, and it's a great rifle. I really recommend it. Of course, you got to shoot it in the vitals, but even with the 12 gauge, you got to shoot a deer in the vitals. So, can't say enough good things about this Bushmaster. One last thing I wanted to talk about were these Dr. Warm insoles, these heated soles. You charge them with a USB and then they're remote control activated. You know what? I'm tired of trying to use those oxygen activated heat pads, only because they still work when you have them up here, the body warmers and stuff, but when you put them down to a neoprene waterproof boot that doesn't breathe, they stop working. And it's not until you get back to camp or once you get home you pull them out, and then they're oxygen activated again, and they start heating up, and it just makes you mad, you know. But these will work when they're in that boot. They'll work for, I think it's 6 hours on low, 4 hours on medium, and 2.5 hours on high. What I do is I'll start it on low, and then as soon as I get out there, I'll use the remote control that's in my bag, and I'll click it to high. I mean, if you plan on sitting longer, just don't even activate the boot until you start to feel cold, and then you just can activate it. So super simple, super cool. I really enjoy these. I'll put a link in the description.